Thank you so much, Dan, for joining me today. I'm so excited. I have a ton of
Thanks for having
questions
me.
for you. I have a ton of questions for you. We want to talk about, obviously, about crypto. I want to talk about real estate, stocks, the state of the economy, the recession. But before I even ask you about that, because I've read about you, I've been seeing a lot of different things on you, and I want to tell people your backstory, because a lot of people that are trying to build wealth, they don't understand work. They just think like, oh, I hear a lot of people say this. Oh, they were born on third base, or it was a family money, or any excuse really not to achieve. So tell people your backstory. I find it really, really interesting.
Yeah. So my parents escaped China during the communist occupation back in the 1940s, and they arrived in Los Angeles, California. Didn't speak English or anything like that, and got jobs working for General Motors and Wells Fargo Bank and stuff like that. And so I watched them when I was little, struggle, try to learn the language, try to figure things out. And all my uncles and aunties and cousins and that. And it was kind of interesting is that most of my cousins and family members and all that all became entrepreneurs.
Really?
Yeah, it's really strange. And my one uncle, Uncle Henry, he founded one of the largest Chinese American banks in Los Angeles, California. And he said to me, he's like, man, he goes, in America, if you can't make it, as long as you have, your health and your mind and stuff like that, he goes, it's probably because you're just not taking action. You're just being lazy.
Right.
And that was kind of instilled in all of us. So that's where I got started,
But I found it really interesting that I read that you were like this unruly teenager. Right?
Yeah, I was like super rowdy teenager, crazy teenager, partying all the time. And then I ended up coming to Utah. My sister lived in Utah and had zero money here. And then that's where I met my mentor. I was working at Radio Shack in the mall.
Right.
And I met my first mentor, and it was a customer. This old guy came in and bought some computer stuff. And he's like, hey, dude, do you have a mentor? I'm like, no. He's like, dude, you hungry? You want to get lunch? So we went to lunch, and he goes, dude, I'm going to show you the way. It was crazy, though, because in 3 years, I made my first $1 million.
I know you made your first million when you're 20. And it's so funny. My dad from Bensonhurst, New York, and he always said to me, Tammy, people discount old people. They're walking around with wealth of information, right? You're just like, oh, old guy, get out of my way. And he says, if anybody tells you this lesson cost me, a lot of money, he goes, stop. I don't care what the hell you're doing. Stop what you're doing and lean in and listen. And to that point, how important are mentors? I mean, obviously your mentor is what kind of gave you the springboard to be who you are today. So how do you tell people to get a mentor? How important is that?
It's critical, and you can get mentors for free. Usually when people get older, they get lonely because their spouses pass away and their kids doing their thing and ignoring them. I always tell people, look, if you want a free mentor, go volunteer at high-end nursing homes and just visit and talk to older folks.
Yeah.
Bring them some candy or something, or a cake or something.
Yeah, I used to do that. They love it too. They're sitting there and they're like, oh, Johnny, my grandson, doesn't come and see me in 3 weeks. And they really appreciate that. But that's awesome. That's awesome advice, actually. So thank you for that. Okay, I want to get into crypto, okay? And this is, okay, I'm going to start with crypto 101 questions, because what's funny is, digital currency, I get all kinds of different reactions when I was prepping for this, right? People are like, digital currency. You hear people going, oh, in the Revelation, they said there's going to be one digital currency and they're afraid of it. They think like, oh, it's evil. And what people don't know is the fiat system, right? Our dollar bills and whatnot, only I think it's about 7% of the money is actually printed. Most of it is digital, right? So tell me, and I'm going to ask you, you might think these are really, because I would walk around and ask people, hey, do you know anything about crypto? And it's becoming more mainstream, right? Oh yeah, I know about crypto, but when you go deeper, they really don't know what the hell it is. So I'm going to ask you some questions that you're maybe going to be like, what? But honestly, I'm going to take the bullet, because people are afraid to ask things because they don't want to look stupid. So I'll go ahead and take the hit and I'll look stupid. Okay. So can you tell people, what is cryptocurrency?
It just depends how you look at it. There's basically two types of places you're going to store crypto. It's going to be a centralized exchange, which is owned by a company, right? Like FTX, they just blew up, right? But you have Coinbase.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that, yeah.
And you have a decentralized exchange. Basically, crypto blockchain is just a giant ledger, a public ledger normally. And so when you go to the bank, they use a ledger, as well, right? It says you have $1 million in your checking account, right?
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
just a number in their computer, right? That's controlled
Right.
by a private organization. The
Mhm.
whole idea with blockchain is these transactions are transparent and visible and to everybody, and people can see that publicly on what's called an explorer. So you can see all the transactions. It's really hard to hide stuff typically,
Mhm.
and it's quicker,
Typically.
it's more efficient. And the idea at the beginning was less government control, less centralized control. But at the end of the day, it's going to be government controlled, and it's going to be
Absolutely.
centralized control. I mean, people are like, they're getting all pissed off about that. You know, I've been doing crypto stuff since early 2013,
Right.
and it's like, it's not going to be something that's like garage band, super secretive, and that it's going to be very, very controlled.
So, and how many? I also read that how many cryptocurrencies are there? I heard that they doubled since 2021 to 2022. I mean,
There's projects that come and go, but think about small companies that come and go too,
right.
you know. But
Mhm.
all crypto as a whole is about $850 billion, give or take, you know. It's a lot smaller now than it was a while ago because the correction, I believe we're sitting in a sale. Uh, we keep seeing these corrections every few years, and that's normal with everything, right?
Mhm.
But right now, all of crypto put together is smaller than Apple, smaller than Amazon. It's a very it's almost like a small stock position, really, if you add up the whole thing.
Right.
But it's inevitable that governments are gonna come out with central bank digital dollars,
Right.
and they're gonna want a little control. And there's gonna be fear of, oh, is Big Brother gonna be watching me? Is there gonna be a social score?
Mhm.
And I might date myself a little bit. I started my company in 1992, PCLaptops.com, right, the first one.
Right. Mhm.
And we went through the dot-com bubble. Yeah,
Right.
but everybody was scared of getting on the internet. They were scared, like, I'm not gonna put my credit card in this web thing. Like, you know,
I
there's
had
only
an uncle that
cash.
used to rip up his receipts and throw it in the ocean because he was so afraid of anybody getting numbers. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah, remember carbon copies and stuff
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
credit cards? Like, but this is just technology and evolution. So it's inevitable. But the cool thing is, imagine during the dot-com bubble, if you had bought and your viewers had bought a little bit of Google, a little bit of Apple, a little bit of Amazon, you'd probably be doing okay if you held on to that till this day. Same
Mhm.
thing with Bitcoin since the inception. But the cool thing with crypto is I believe we're still in the very, very early stages, which is
Okay.
cool.
That
Yeah.
is cool. That is cool. It is cool. Okay. And there's another thing that you might think I'm just really so. And then I also read that you built a Bitcoin mine, like one of the largest mines in Utah. Am I correct?
In 2014, I built the largest Bitcoin mining facility in the state.
Okay, so when I read that, just so you know, this is how lame I am. So then I'm like, oh, Bitcoin, it's this digital currency, right? And then I'm all mining. And then I also read that you said, oh, and then I guess China has recently stopped mining because it takes up a lot of energy. So I was so confused by that because I'm literally picturing like, like Mario Brothers, like you're in a mine with like little coins. I'm like, what does that mean, mining Bitcoin, and why does it take energy?
Well, that's the old way, and Bitcoin still take mining power. But when we do a transaction, if
Okay.
you were to send me a little bit of Bitcoin, if I were to send you some Bitcoin, someone needs to process that information, like your merchant processor for your credit card company, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's the mining. The mining is
Oh,
the calculation of transactions, and it's moved. Ethereum just moved from what's called proof of work to proof of stake. So you don't need to mine as you traditionally would.
okay.
And so that's changing, and the government wants to change that all around because they don't want us hurting the environment with consuming mass amounts of electricity just to do
Oh,
transactions.
okay.
Right?
That makes sense. All right. So
Yeah.
you're not out there with like little hard hats mining things.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I've heard you say things like not your keys, not your crypto, or hold your own crypto. What does that mean? And then I want to get into FTX and all that stuff that people are hearing right now.
Yeah. So you can use a thing called a hot wallet,
Mm-hmm.
or cold storage. A hot wallet is a software wallet that you put on your computer. MetaMask is one of the more popular ones, right? You can also get a thing like it's called a ledger key, which is like it looks like a USB key,
Uh-huh.
and you can store all your crypto on that key, right?
Oh, okay.
Now, that's called decentralized storage. there's centralized exchanges. So
Mm-hmm.
for stocks, you might use Fidelity or Goldman Sachs or whoever stores your stocks, right?
Okay.
Now that's where you might store your crypto, but remember, they hold your crypto. So like the case of FTX,
Okay.
if people had crypto there and FTX went bankrupt, you can't withdraw it, right? It's all
Right.
tied up in their thing. So, I recommend people hold their own keys, but there are security protocol issues. If you don't know what you're doing with your own private keys and things like that, you can get robbed and hacked and terrible things.
So FTX, everybody's been talking about that, so now, obviously that's why crypto's a friend of mine. You're hearing like all these athletes losing $600 million. I mean, this like it's bloodbath, right? So everybody's like, oh my God. So obviously that's not helping consumer confidence. But can you explain what happened there? Like what went on? FTX is an exchange. I don't know if people understand what that means. So can you explain that and what happened?
Yeah, an exchange is almost like you could metaphor to like a brokerage, like for stocks, right?
Okay.
They hold your crypto.
Okay.
They can invest your crypto. They can loan out your crypto, do kinds of things to be a company. Mm-hmm. Coinbase is like that, but Coinbase is US based. Crypto.com, Binance, you hear about all these different players like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happened was they're still discovering what happened, but they had their own token, an FTX token. And it's almost like printing your own money, having these tokens. If you heard about the Luna Terra debacle, where that stable coin blew up, Do Kwon and all that, that's because his stable coin wasn't backed by a US dollar or real assets. It was backed by some coin that they made up that they were using as collateral, right? So it's like printing your own money.
So like Chuck E. Cheese tokens, like they don't really.
I mean, the US dollar is like a Chuck E. Cheese token, except we have nukes and military, and that's why it's worth anything, right? Like we'll kick your ass if you're hurt, mess with us. So use the right. US dollar, I mean, that's why we can print more and it's still actually doing pretty good compared to other currencies, right? Because we're still, a lot of the world's based on the US dollar, faith.
Right.
But going back to FTX, those exchanges, though, if they blow up, they're just companies. So there's no like government insurance, FDIC, anything like that, right? So it's kind of, if they blow up, it's Wild West, right? You're probably going to lose your money.
All right, thanks. Okay, I'm going to read, Robert Kiyosaki's been tweeting a lot lately, right? Some of his messages is the sky is falling, but I'm going to read one of his tweets recently and see what your reaction is. Bitcoin, worried? No, I'm an investor in physical gold, silver, and real estate. When Bitcoin hits the new bottom, 10 to 12K, I will get excited, not worried. Do you share his sentiment?
Oh, yeah. Robert's a cool guy. Since I was like really young, I'm 51 now, but since I was like early 20s, I've been reading his stuff. Right. It's funny though, because you know how the universe goes. I think like 4 months ago, I bumped into him at a friend's event. And we were just hanging out and he was asking me crypto questions.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to do pictures and selfies, we're into that. So yeah. I consider him like a virtual uncle. He's great. Okay. I agree with him. When you're sitting in a sale and you've been through cycles, it's hard to know you're in the sale. So myself and a lot of my peers, we made a lot of money since the late 90s or early 90s, but we made huge money from the dot-com bubble. And we made huge money in 2008-9 real estate crash. That's where we made like the majority of our money. And during COVID, I mean, it was crazy. My net worth doubled during COVID.
Well, and what do you attribute that to?
Well, fear. So like when everyone's freaking out, then you can pick up bargains. I mean, that's the key. It was crazy just from things like real estate to crypto to stocks to everything, even exotic cars. I mean, it was crazy. I remember there was.
Are you referring back? Wait, you're referring back to 2008?
No, this is back even the pandemic, 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry, the pandemic. Okay.
Yeah, here's the crazy one. So there was this big crash right in the beginning of COVID, right? And so I bought a bunch of stock. I started 17 real estate projects. Well, actually, I bought my buddies' projects who were freaking out, like the world's going to end.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too.
Picking up stuff so cheap. I bought what did I buy? 6 Lambos, like 3 G-Wagons. And I was buying the stuff way below sticker, like brand new stuff. And then
Like how
crazy when
much
people
below
go,
sticker? How much below sticker?
10, 15,000 below sticker.
Wow.
And the crazy stuff thing is some of the stuff, like right after, within 6 months, it was selling for 100,000 over sticker. You know, like these Porsche Turbo
Was that because of
GT3s.
the supply chains and stuff, or that they were
That's
talking about?
because everyone started getting free money. Business owners got PPP
Okay.
money.
Mhm.
You know,
PPP money,
everyone's like,
yeah.
oh, everyone's rolling in it,
They're
right?
like, woo!
So, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So everyone was wanting to buy that, you know, and every influencer had a Lambo to G-Wagon, right? Yeah.
They were all jumping on the bandwagon. I read that you buy 1 Bitcoin every month on the 23rd of every month. Is that still your routine? Are you still doing that?
I try to buy a, a wide variety of crypto every month. I would probably say transactionally, it depends how my month goes. If I have
Okay.
a killer month and I'm making a lot of money, I'll just take a percentage of what I make
What
and
normally, that's what I was
distribute
going to
that.
ask you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like what percentage would you're not here to give you're not a financial advisor, but you're just giving
No,
your opinion. Okay. So I want people to
yeah,
understand that. But
yeah.
what percentage, of your portfolio, like when you say you make a lot of money, what percentage would you allot towards Bitcoin?
I usually do 5%.
Okay. 5%.
10%, like if I'm like really going crazy. The majority of my wealth is in real estate and also the companies that I have. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you own companies, a lot of it's inventory. So like one of our companies does like 40, 50 million a year. So you need a lot of inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so that sucks a lot of cash, right?
Right.
To do that. Real estate takes a lot of cash because you get into these projects and I'm putting 25% down on commercial stuff, but they
Mm-hmm.
cash flow really good too. So they're
Right.
like, it's not like you're rolling in it, flying six, G6 jets or whatever, but you're doing good. So,
I was going to go to real estate, but since you mentioned it, I want to ask you a couple questions about that. I mean, we do know, and like you mentioned back in 2008, you were just picking stuff up. And that's really what I'm trying to do is trying to explain to people right now that the recession, I think you will agree, brings certain opportunities, correct? And then also some
oh yeah.
pain. But as far as real estate is concerned, what do you look for? And like, what's your minimum ROI? Like when you're looking at a project or what you're looking at right now, and let our audience know that, and I think you just answered that question, you do that recessions are going to bring some opportunities. So what
Right.
would you do to prepare to capitalize on that? And what do you look for when you are investing in real estate?
Okay. First and most important thing that I look for is going to be cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
I look at a cap rate.
Mm-hmm.
I
Explain
want to
that to
make sure.
people. So
You guys can Google that and run some charts, and it's easy to understand. But you got to
mm-hmm.
first understand your net operating income. How much are you going to make on your property after paying all the expenses, right? Your cap rate from what you buy the building for. Let's say you bought $1 million building. If you want an 8 cap, right, that'd be 8% is what you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for annually.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a be all though, because there's things like opportunity zones, cost segregation. You can Google all that stuff.
Right.
But having good tax advantages is major. Just for example,
Mm-hmm.
in opportunity zones, these are zones that the government really wants you to develop projects in areas that are underdeveloped.
Okay.
And some of the tax law is if you work on this and you develop it, not only can you enjoy the tax benefits that you normally would have, doing depreciation,
Mm-hmm.
but if you hold it for a certain amount of time, there's a lot of different variations. I'll talk to your CPA. But for example, one of them is set up that if you hold it for 10 years, when you sell that, all your gains are tax free.
Wow. That is
So
huge.
that's crazy, right? Like,
That's nuts.
I mean, because even if your lowest capital gains rate was like 20%, for
Mm-hmm.
long term, and that's probably going up, right?
Right.
That's like 20% more profit on the deal. That's freaking huge.
That's huge. That's huge. It's a huge ROI.
Yeah.
It's really.
Yeah. There's a book called Cash Flow Forever. I can't remember the author. It's called Cash Flow Forever. You just look at it's the number one, and it's great because I would buy the physical and the audio book, and it's got all the how to calculate the cap rate, not net operating, how to do diligence on a project, like how to screen crappy tenants from good tenants, how to get your leases set up correctly, how to do your tax stuff.
That's awesome.
Like,
That's
it's
awesome. Yeah, that's what
it's the
people
most
need to
boring
know.
book in the world. It's the most boring book in the world.
Because it's a how-to book,
great.
but it gives you the step-by-steps, right, on how to implement it. And that's what a lot of people get all fired up. And then I wrote 6 books. Like, you go to Tom Ferry events or whatnot, like they get all fired up. They might listen to you and I and go, yeah, but they don't know how to implement it. So even though it's a boring book, I think that's really, really helpful.
Let me give you a quick, easy one for the viewers out there. Just for example, this is real life.
Okay.
So there was 10 duplexes in North Salt Lake, near a place called Woods Cross, Utah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my buddy was building this. Pandemic happened. Bank got all freaked out on him. He couldn't come up with all the cash. He was running out of money. It's like, dude, take over this project. And I go, well, how much is each side of the duplex costing to build? He's like, $450. And I'm like, well, I'll let you make 20 grand each. I'll give you 470. And they're like 90% done. I'll help carry it through. And I did the math. So the debt service on each side at the current time with a 30-year mortgage, a traditional mortgage, was about $1,500 a month. I figured there's going to be about a 5% management fee to pay my property management guys. Take care of that. You have maintenance, property tax, all the expenses and all that, right? Mm-hmm. But the prevailing rents on crappy comparables in the area was $3,000 a month.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So I'm like, wait. If my debt's about $1,500, add, I don't know, like $500 of just expenses. This is quick Kentucky windage stuff. Well, then I'm going to cash flow $1,000 a month on each one of these. So buying 10 of these duplexes is like a no-brainer. Like, I didn't even have to run it by a lot of my CPA and all that to know, okay, the math is just a no-brainer. Now let's get a little deeper into this, and make sure it's what we want. And so that was an example of one of the projects. There's another building in Midvale, Utah, 5.5 acre. I ended up getting it. They wanted to sell it for like $7 million, and they had 3 failed sales. When things went crappy, I got it for 3.2. It's worth now. It's probably like 15.5. Got cost. I got a $2 million tax write-off the first year doing cost segregation. Ended up leasing it, which is here's crazy. So I ended up leasing. It's 50,000 square foot. I leased 15,000 square feet to a good publicly traded company. They're a medical company. Mm-hmm. That's enough to cover the debt service. And so the other 30,000 square feet, I charge 45 grand a month, triple net, the lease. So I make $45,000 a month net cash flow on one property and took the tax deduction. So real estate's so powerful. I know like crypto's a thing, guys. And, everyone's like, man, Dan, teach me about crypto. But as you make money, you need to really profits and move that over,
Right. Diversify. Right. So, and how much, and I want to talk about stocks too. I was listening to something yesterday. They're saying that, I want to know what you think about the stock market. Some people are like, oh, it's going to go falling down. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki's kind of saying things like that. I want to get your take on it. And also, I was also listening to, because things are becoming more automated, or almost becoming, we used to watch the Jetsons, right? Back when we were little kids. It's becoming like that. They're saying tech companies are the way, what to be looking for. What are you looking for? What's your take on the stock market? Give us something on that.
I won't tell you what stocks to buy. I will tell you companies though that I like their infrastructure.
Okay.
As you know, I sit on I'm on the board of advisors for Intel for more than 15 years now. And so in the tech industry, I kind of know what a lot of competitors are doing and things. An interesting thing is I think Amazon is a very compelling company because they're kind of like, Walmart back in the 80s, 90s, and it was like, oh, that's the thing. Walmart, we're taking over the world. Well, Amazon is because, think about this. You see now almost as many Amazon trucks as FedEx and UPS, right?
Yeah.
Look at the airplanes too, right? Now they have the Amazon logo. Amazon also controls data centers. So they control Amazon Web Services, which is like more than probably half the data you see on the internet, right?
Right.
That's huge. That's where everyone's storing their e-com and their videos and everything, right? So Amazon, I think, has a massively compelling future with automation. Here's the crazy thing. My buddy builds industrial flex warehouses, and Amazon is his number one tenant across the country. And I'm like, hey, man, why are there like little drone ports like at all the Amazon hubs? He goes, oh, because the drones are going to deliver. We just got to get cleared by the FAA. He goes, and so you won't even need people to deliver stuff. The robots will do it. And that's so crazy. I'm thinking, well, okay, well, if Amazon's got a grip on distribution, They don't really even need employees, and they can do things by robot. They're probably going to exist even as people's normal labor jobs get phased out. So I think that company is cool. Now, here's where it ties deeper. Well, who controls the chips in Amazon's data center to control the AI? Well, there's a company called NVIDIA. There's a company called AMD. There's a company called Intel. And there's, Microsoft owns a lot of cloud. So if these companies control the chips that bake the cake, that run the ecosystem, cool. It's kind of like Elon Musk, super freaking genius.
Right.
He's not a car company, right? He's a software company and a battery manufacturer.
Okay.
Like, if his batteries are 500% more efficient than any other competitor, and he can make them domestically in the US, right? If he can get to that point, then everyone was just going to buy their batteries from him. That's why he gave away his electric car technology for free. All his patents gave away for free because he wants these people to develop, because he wants to sell the razor. He doesn't want to sell the shaver. He wants to sell the ink. He doesn't care about the printer. It's like genius. And then what he sells is data. So since 2012 or earlier, he's tracked every driving habit of everybody with a Tesla. Well, this is why Ford and General Motors, they're 5 years behind him in data analytics technology. It's cheaper for them just to pay Elon Musk for the AI for full self-driving, because he's already got 1 trillion miles tracked on everybody. So it's data. So he's a data broker. I mean, come on. So AI, data, that's the future. And if I was like, for stocks for myself, I look for those compelling things that make the cake. Another thing I'm heavy on, I won't tell you what specific companies, you can Google it. Lithium and nickel. Like, everything's going electric. The government's forcing it, but robots need it, right? And so, like, well, if lithium and nickel and copper and those elements are necessary to make battery infrastructure, well, that would be like buying an oil company back in the 1800s, wouldn't it? So it's kind of just, it's pretty logical, I think.
It's funny. Well, even I was thinking, remember Blockbuster? Remember we used to walk into Blockbuster, right? Everybody walk. Remember that was those nights, right? You go to, we're dating myself too, right? All excited, like bring my kids, go to the Blockbuster, and they say, and then and Netflix approached Blockbuster, right, saying, "Hey, we're going to do this." Blockbuster said, "Nah," and didn't merge. And now what happened to Blockbuster? See, thinking ahead. It's funny because as I was listening to you right now, kind of going through all that, this is what differentiates somebody like the average person to someone like yourself. You're thinking like, well, if the drones and then the AI, and you're thinking ahead and you're understanding where we're going, instead of trying to having that social dissonance and want to stay where we're at. So that's
again, I didn't invent any of this stuff. So let me just tell you, it's mentors, right? And so on social media, the homework I would give the viewers out there: unfollow any negative, political, controversial, give you a headache stuff. That's just going to eat your soul. We all have a certain amount of mana, energy, right? Like, you got to expend it on stuff that's like cool and productive. So, but I would follow men and women who are like creating our future, and listen to what they have. Like, everyone's like, Elon Musk is insane. Neuralink, he's going to have these chips put in his kid's head and sell one to you. Well, yeah, everyone's going to say that until suddenly, like, all those people who are paralyzed, neck down, can walk perfectly because he offers a medical chip device that lets their legs feel again. Then they're going to be like, this guy, wow. People that are paralyzed, people with Alzheimer's, all these things. He's cured all these like ailments that plague mankind. Oh, wow. What an incredible dude. Oh, and he's got us a Mars colony, like, follow these people like that are wild and crazy, and that are, and everyone's going to think they're crazy at first. Like Elon bought Twitter. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's crazy, blah, blah, blah. I think he just wants to see the evolution of humans.
I think people think that people are crazy when they don't understand something. Oh, you're crazy. It's just easier to just dismiss it as them being crazy because they don't understand something. It scares them. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
It's like the electric car, gas car debate. Look, I love all cars. I'm car nut, gas, electric. But think about this. I talk to a lot of my friends, and they're like, man, why is this Tesla Plaid your favorite car over your Lambos and Porsches?
I've seen you, like, it drives you around, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, Lambos and Porsches are like high heels going to a nice dinner event. It's not like I want to like wear them daily, like Crocs or Skechers or whatever,
Yeah, right.
I'm like, but a Tesla, is like something you'd want to just cruise around every moment because it's so easy. It's like a phone with a steering wheel. And people are like, but the sound, I miss the sound. I'm like, I remember when people moved from horses to gas cars, and they're like, I miss the smell and the sound of horse farts. It's like,
you're like,
okay. I mean, horses are cool and all that, but it's not like
yeah.
you want to ride one to work,
No,
you know, and you know,
not.
clean up its poo, you know, like, and that's the same thing with the gas car, you know. So eventually, I think, I mean, there will be that migration.
Hey,
Can't
I have
stop
another
that.
question for you. Percentages, all right, just to kind of give somebody an idea. So you have crypto, and I think you kind of touched on this, but I just want to make sure we kind of drive it home. You have crypto, you have stocks, right? You kind of touched on what you should be looking for. We really want to be forward thinking. Gold and silver is something that people are, you know, investing in, and real estate. If you had to do a percentage like a pie, what would you kind of tell people, you know, where they should direct their money and what percentages where?
Depends on age and where you are in your career. But
Okay.
let's just say you're, I don't know, 18 to like 40, 50, 50,
Okay.
18 to 50.
Okay.
And if you're older than that, you're going to have to go more conservative because you need to live on it, right?
Right.
You're not, you know, if you're 70, you know, you're not going to be working 80 hours a week or something. So if you're capable of working and generating cash, a base standard is 40, 40, 20. So 40% conservative stuff. That's stuff that's earning like typically under 10%, right? That could be some very boring dividend type of stocks, right? It could be even boring stuff like silver and gold. It's like pretty boring, you know, stuff. Your mid risk is going to be 40%, and that's stuff that you know it's going to earn more than 10%, maybe 25% up there, right? And that's like really good. That's going to be some crypto, maybe some people might consider some crypto, large cap crypto that way, not like dogs on coins and that kind of thing, right? But a lot of real estate. There's going to be a lot of real estate in that range because those cap rates will get to where you're kind of earning that 10 to 25 if you hang on to it for a while. So that's going to be a big bulk, and that's kind of medium level stuff. And then 20% will be moonshot stuff, and that's just crazy stuff. And that can be crypto, more volatile crypto. Some people would consider just even Bitcoin and Ethereum in that crazy moonshot category. Again, depending on how your psychology is. This is also could be speculation, stuff like that. And the craziest things, back in 2014, 13, when I put a bunch into Bitcoin, that was my super moonshot bucket. And that was the money I took the money from that to buy that building I told you that cash flows.
Okay.
Right?
That's pretty good.
Cash flow, yeah. Well, it was my wife that made me sell it because I was into Bitcoins, $130 a Bitcoin. I went up to 20,000 a Bitcoin. She's like, you should sell some. I was stupid and didn't sell it till it was about 12 to 14,000. I wrote it down a little, but I was only at like 130. So I was like, okay, let's buy real estate with 75% of this. So it's always good to asset allocate if your moonshots go up. My buddy, I won't mention his name, but he's like genius. He has this like robot that does gold trading, like futures. And he's like, dude, you should check this out. I go, I totally am not in. I don't understand that. He's like, dude, I know that I know what I'm doing. I'm like yeah. And he's like, dude, just give me 20 grand. Let me show you what I can do. So 12 months ago, he gave him 20 grand. He sticks it in this account. You know, I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, probably going to go to zero. I log into it.
You're all risk capital, all right. Expected to lose it, right?
I log into it this morning, and my part is worth 145 grand from 20 grand. And
how long? How long?
This is since the beginning of the year, since January.
Okay, so not even a full year. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is crazy, dude. He goes, dude, our robot is great. And then he's like, and I took my 40% commission already out. Did you notice? So he charges me 40% commission. I'm like, I mean,
40% commission.
Yeah. So this is like stupid moonshot. And I was sitting with a couple other friends who put money into his little robot thing, and
his little robot.
one of my friends has like 4 million in there, and he's like, yeah, I just could buy a little real estate now. And so those moonshots can pay off, but that sounds like really wonderful and all awesome. But just as many, moonshots that I've invested in have gone to zero. I bought this weird crypto that's just like, your friend told you about it, it's gonna be awesome, and put 10 grand in and it's worth zero in a week, right?
Right.
But as long as that's in your risk pile, so 40%
Okay.
conservative, 40% medium risk,
Okay.
20% moonshot. If you're kind of a chicken, you may want to do like 10% moonshot. I'm 50 right now, so I still do about 20% moonshot, but probably in 10 years, I'll get a little more chickeny and go like 10%.
As you get older. So what you're saying is you get older, right? And your income producing years are getting smaller. You probably don't want to put 20% in a moonshot. You probably will scale that down.
Yeah, once you're old, I mean, the idea is like all my friends that are old from tech from the 90s and early 2000s, they are 95% real estate now. And
okay, that's good to know.
And most of 95% real estate. Some have stocks, maybe 50% that are the stock guys, but most of them are real estate because they have property management companies that run their real estate.
Right. So they sit there.
And they have family office managers. And they cash flow. They're like, if I can make, most of these guys are like, if I can make $2 to $5 million a month net, this is great. And I can give to charity and, help people.
Do all those things. Yeah. Pay it forward.
And most of them are just going to give it away anyway. Like most of my friends, including myself, will probably give most of it away.
So you, Adam, I was going to actually have that question written down, which is your favorite? So, crypto, stocks, gold, silver, real estate. So what would you say is your fave?
Gosh, it's all good stuff. I would say every month I buy.
No, you have to have a fave though. You can't say, what's your fave?
Oh, my favorite guns.
Guns? All right.
Oh yeah. And not that like I'm some crazy like gun dude, but I think the restrictions are going to become tighter and tighter on firearms in the US. And as a collector, new in the box, a lot of people are like, what do you think has a chance of appreciating the most or going down that isn't Bitcoin and not stocks and real estate? And what would it be? I told them, assault rifles. Like, no, this is crazy because if you look at the assault weapons ban back in the 90s, this is crazy. My mentor guy, he's like, dude, I'm buying. I think he goes, he's buying.
How many mentors do you have?
Like 12 now. You see a lot of friends through time. But he was like a gun survivalist guy, right? And the gold and cabin in the wilderness type of dude. And he's like, no, he was buying these AR-15s for like $350 back in the early 90s or something. And then I remember though when the assault weapons ban came, he goes, they're $2,600 today. And I'm like, whoa. The same crazy dude, the awesome guy, he was buying transferable, legally government registered with the ATF, what they call machine gun sears. They're a little part that make a gun, like a MP5, a machine gun. $200 tax stamp with the government. The actual sear was $1,000, right? So you're talking $1,200. He was buying these back in the late 80s. Today they're worth $51,000 each for this little piece of metal. $51,000 from $1,200. I mean, even with inflation, that's pretty amazing. But I think for myself, I think gold is actually not a bad thing. Kiyosaki's big on gold. He says,
he keeps talking about gold and silver. He said he's not even buying stocks. He just keeps saying real estate, gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, if you're going to buy gold and silver, I use a place called All About Coins in Utah. If you want to buy online, there's a place called APMEX.
I was going to ask you that. I don't know if you could mention names because I was even trying to find places to buy gold and silver, and it's really daunting. And so that's really good advice.
And APMEX tracks your receipts. So if you ever sell them for taxes, you know what your basis is. I like it. They have stuff like from way back for me. But the cool thing is they'll ship it to your house. And I think everybody, when you're getting started, just buy a little bit of silver every month, maybe like $100, like cancel some Netflix or something.
Right.
In Starbucks and just buy some silver. When you make more money, buy a little bit of gold. I like to buy usually 1 gold ounce a month since I was 18 years old.
Really?
And yeah, and sometimes I give them to my kids for Christmas and stuff like that, like and relatives and stuff and employees and but it doesn't hurt to have some of that. I mean, you should definitely. If crap hits the fan, that's pretty tangible.
Okay, and I was going to ask you that. So we don't want to be doom and gloom, but we already agreed that recessions bring unique opportunities. You went over that, people need what they should be looking for right now. What do you see is the biggest challenge we are going to be facing shortly? And what would you say to the average person, what we can do to prepare?
The biggest challenge actually is you're sitting in it right now. I mean, it's probably going to deteriorate the next 2 quarters as unemployment soaks in. Unemployment numbers just reported today, and they're like, "Oh, we're actually have more jobs than we thought." I'm in the tech industry, and some of my friends who own or presidents of these tech companies have laid off 10, 20,000 people at a time
I'm in the
this
mortgage
month.
industry. I'm in the mortgage industry. I mean, yeah, I see what's happening.
Yeah, I'm like, and we've been around, so we remember 2008 and 9.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
the government will always try to manipulate and suppress numbers or however they need to, like, to not scare people too much
Mm-hmm.
unless there's a political agenda to it.
Of course.
But we're going to feel that. I believe they're still going to continue to raise rates, though, for another quarter or two. They
Mm-hmm.
probably will backpedal down to like half a point to three instead of 3/4 point raises,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually good because Jerome Powell just talked about how they're going to start easing off a little bit from
Right.
0.75. That's getting priced in. That's why you saw that stock rally for a day a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
As that continues to go, we'll get to a 0 point where they're not raising, right? I think that interest rates for like home mortgages will probably be, 8 to 10%, somewhere in there, just depending on how aggressive they go. And then they'll start cooling it down. But I don't know if I'll ever see rates like for another 10, 20 years, like in the threes and the twos, like we saw.
It's crazy. I've been a lender for 24 years. The stuff I was locking in, I couldn't even believe it. When I started in loans, I think it was about 24 years ago. I was going to people's houses and writing my apps, did the old school way, and they were taking 9.5%, like then saying thank you, and then
Yeah.
now they're like, oh, that's awesome, 9%. Now people are freaking out. So yeah, I've been through that as well, but I think that you're right.
The buys, though, are going to be happening, I think, in the next couple quarters. The opportunity, it's hard to time it.
Yeah.
But you're already starting to see that. I see buildings that friends were selling for 10, 12 million industrial flex stuff. That's my specialty. But 10, $12 million buildings that are going for like 7, 8 now. And that's huge.
You also said, and I saw something, I don't know if it was your podcast or whatnot, where you said that you like to buy buildings in the winter. You're in Utah, so it's cold, right? But you said that you look for opportunities in the winter because empty buildings, owners don't like to heat empty buildings, right? So do you still feel that way?
You should definitely buy all your crazy stuff in the winter. Buildings. If you're going to go buy guns and ammo in the newspaper, people want to dump it for Christmas money, right?
Right, right.
Real estate is usually very, very depressed in the winter, commercial and residential, because no one wants to heat an empty building, right?
Right.
Especially with commercial stuff. So, but a lot of things. I mean, even sports cars. Like, if you like were rolling it now and you wanted to buy a G-Wagon, like you can get them now for sticker, and they were trading for 150,000 over like 6 months ago, right? You can buy Porsches, a lot of them now, for maybe sticker. Like ones that were like big waiting list. Lambo's a little tougher. Ferrari's a little tougher. People with that level of money are still on the waiting list, right? So, but winter's the best time to buy anything, And even when markets are good, you're from the real estate business, like all the mediocre real estate agents and mortgage people, they all like go on vacation during winter. And all the ones that are like freaking top of the game, top 1%, man, they're like 24/7, 7 days, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter if it's winter or summer, man. Let's freaking make money,
Right, right. And in my industry, what I see, because I would actually even train and coach agents, they make a commission and then they go on vacation and they're not spending that money. Right now, I've heard you say powder, like keep as much powder as possible, right? Cash. So what your advice to people as far as like you said, get rid of those Netflix, anything that's like cut the fat right now. Stop taking vacations that, like you said, I live in Utah, I can go on a hike. I'm not going to go drop 10 grand going on these lavish vacations so I can take selfies and put on social media and let people think that I have this life, right? So what advice would you get? I mean, I see that happen all the time. And right now, I just think that people really need to, and another thing that I wanted to ask you before I forget, you're saying to people, listen, your dollar right now is worth more than it was previously. So can you tell people they really need, I mean, I've heard you say it. Would you agree that saving right now is pretty paramount?
Investing is very paramount right now. Saving too. I mean, you want a little bit of a buffer in case things get crappier, but I would just say cut off the stupid expenses. Like, I see so many of my friends that are like Instagram influencers, some that are really wealthy, some that pretend to be wealthy. I mean, see it across the spectrum. You see that too.
All the time.
But nobody cares if you have a Hermes bag or a super Patek Philippe Rolex or an AP. Nobody cares. Like,
right.
Nobody cares. It's kind of like I see people like all these handbags and big jewelry and all this weird stuff, but nobody cares. Like, it doesn't make them look better. I mean, they'd be better off working out and being like kinder and like a nicer human. That is lasting, right? So I would just, stop taping Twinkies or putting Band-Aids and bullet holes on yourself and go over a budget. There's an easy app I make my kids use called Mint. And it's just like, okay, you put in all your credit cards, all your monthly expenses, and you look at how much you're burning a month and how much you got coming in. And then my daughter was like, oh, I could trim this, trim that, trim that. And so she's like, I'll just put that into my business. Now, investing in your business is smart, like for your inventory, for employees, marketing, as long as you're getting a good ROI. But I would cut all that unnecessary stuff. And what's kind of funny is now the Lambo factor. A lot of my friends drive crazy cars because we like them, but mainly we do it for marketing. But really the main reason why is when you can buy a car and you can sell it for 50 to 100,000 over in 6 months and just drive free cars, then that's actually a smart marketing tool and you're making money. If you're buying a car and it's just depreciating every single month and you're losing 10, 20 grand a year on it, it's not so wise.
No.
You're just burning it, One thing I do is I think mentally, especially during the holidays. And I taught my daughter this again this weekend. When you buy something, is it something that's going to appreciate in value? Is it going to go up? Is it going to cash flow? So cash flow and go up is the best. Real estate, right?
Right.
Stocks, maybe dividends, and maybe it appreciates in value. Crypto, maybe you're staking it and you're earning interest on it and it's appreciating. Okay, get that. Gold maybe can go up. You're probably not going to have cash flow from gold and silver. So that's why I don't think huge amounts are good there. But anything you buy, you got to ask yourself, will it be worth more?
Yeah. Will it be worth more?
My daughter actually, she loves Pokemon cards and stuff. And so
I'm like,
well, now she's like 22.
Okay.
But since she was like a little kid, she's always loved collecting Pokemon cards. There's this one card, it's called the Charizard PSA 9 and the PSA 10. It's the rating or whatever. And these cards were going for like 30,000, depending on the grade, to like 300,000.
Whoa.
Because they're certified and stuff. And so she's like, my goal is to really invest into one of these, Dad. And I think it's an appreciating asset if we can buy it cheap enough, right?
Really?
So so I ended up buying a whole lot of them that were graded, right? And I got them for I got 4 of these Charizard PSA 9s. This was during COVID for like 4,600 each, right? And then a friend offered me 25 grand each, like 10 minutes later, right? He's like, you got those? And I'm like, see, that's an appreciating thing you can enjoy.
I've got to go through my storage. My son, my oldest son, he's 33. I mean, Pokemon cards. I have boxes and boxes of Pokemon cards. Is that not the same thing?
No, the big thing is getting them graded, though. So grading is a company, they'll take it and they'll put it in a little plastic container and they'll say, okay, this is certified to be this quality. And they register it, right? So it's like, it's all official.
Oh, that's even another golden nugget for us.
Yeah, there's so many things.
There's so many things. Okay, I want to get to. I have some questions from the audience that people had sent in. I got some rapid fire questions which were really funny. I want to get to, but I want to really. This is really important, and I've heard you talk about it a lot. And it's one of the reasons why I respect you so much. Tell people how important is mindset. How important is that? Because right now, especially with what we're going to be walking into. Tell people. You're talking about mana, you're talking about, that personal power and all that. Tell people how important mindset is.
Mindset is important. Physical, spiritual, and financial strength is like, the pyramid of power. Tony Robbins taught me that when I was 18 years old. And it still holds to this day.
Right.
You have to keep yourself physically strong, spiritually strong, and financially strong. If you're missing any of those, it's just really hard to be happy long term. You need to keep strength in those areas and keep balance. When you're also, like Warren Buffett said, You want to make sure that you have good energy, you have good intelligence, and you have good integrity.
Right.
You just got to stay focused, and you're moving towards those things because it's so easy to get distracted. And the fear never goes away. I know a lot of you guys and girls that are watching this are nervous. Like, what's the future hold? Like,
Right.
is inflation going to go do this? Am I going to get
Right.
fired? Is there going to be big layoffs? Is the country getting a nuclear war?
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but what you can do is you can plot out, right, where you're going. And then I'd say most anxiety and stress is fighting yesterday's and tomorrow's battles and not being present on executing now. But you don't want to be one of these people that are what I call full-time manifestors without action.
Right.
You can manifest all you want, but that's just wishing unless you take action.
Exactly. I always tell my kids, I go, you can pray, oh, let me win the lottery. I go, but you got to get up and drive down to the store and buy the ticket. You can't just lay in bed and wish that, picture yourself winning the lottery, right?
Yep. So you have to execute, and I'd say stay focused on what's actually working, because a lot of times people will put like a few months into one thing and not get that much result and get really bored and try another, and they just hop. But it's almost like they keep pushing reset on their life. So they get to like level 10 and they want to get to level 100, right?
Right.
And they're like, this is not working out. Gosh, I'm getting some hiccups here. And then they reset careers too often. Especially Gen Z now. I see a lot of these kids, like my daughter's friends, they're just hopping job to job to job to job to job. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just focus and get good at something.
Right.
Get good at being disciplined. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions that somebody sent in. Okay. And we went over this a little bit, but there's a couple of crypto questions. But Mike Stevens from Los Angeles wanted me to ask you, if you had $20,000 right now, like that's all you had was $20,000, what would you do with it? Like that. I mean, basically your bills are paid, but you had 20 grand. That's all you had. That's the average person. What would you do?
I would keep it as a buffer, first of all. I mean, I'd say it's always nice to know you have at least 3 to 6 months, even up to a year, of being able to handle your bills and your rent and your burn rate. I mean, if something goes bad, because if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you just blow that 20 grand or something, a lot of influencers will say, and blow it, invest it on yourself, put a mastermind. And I'm like, that's great and all, but that's kind of stupid in that you can get 99% of your knowledge for free on the internet anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Masterminds are awesome for networking. I love them to make side deal flow. If you're hanging out with a bunch of guys and girls that are all making a few million a year, you're going to make some stuff happen together,
Yeah.
So for network exposure, yeah, but I'd say first buffer, right? Okay. And depending, once you have a buffer, then I would start dividing into that 40-40-20 investing plan, right? Okay. Conservative, mid-risk, high risk, moonshot. Mm-hmm. And just doing that disciplines every month. If you're getting anxiety about investing, like say you put money into a stock or whatever it is, and you're like losing sleep over it, you put too much. So put half of that and see how you feel. If you're still nervous about it, you still put too much. Put half that. So if you think like 10 grand needs to go into this or 100 grand, you probably need to put in 5 grand or 50 grand, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
FOMO, fear of missing out, but you're going to feel good that you can sleep and you have some more ammo to live another day,
Absolutely. Okay. This is a crypto question from Andrew. There was two. I'll read both of them. What are some uses you see for crypto in the general population moving forward? Which I think you answered that pretty much. And how do you see exchanges evolving to protect assets, if at all, in light of historical mistrust like Mt. Gox at FTX? Do you see a lot of correlation with the success of crypto with public perception of trust in exchanges?
Yeah, it's all going to go like this. It's all going to go to Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, Bank of America, American Express, all the big companies that have trillions of dollars in assets and stock under management that are FDIC, American companies, regulated. Mm-hmm. They're just going to add crypto to that portfolio that they manage. So let's say Fidelity, I don't know how much they manage, maybe like 3 or 5 trillion or however they do, if they add, if they add 20 billion or 100 billion into that out of 5 trillion under management, even if crypto crashes completely, whatever, it's not going to default them,
Uh-huh.
So the old saying, God is on the side of the army with the largest artillery and most ammunition. And so that's why this bro zitty kid is going to start some weird exchange in the Bahamas and be successful with that. They just, a lot of times they just don't have the experience of internal operational processes and workings to run a company securely, reliably, and good. I mean, now that you look at FTX's internal operations, it was a cluster, just a bunch of freaking kids, and people were so emotionally biased.
Crazy. Didn't the guy like transfer some, I forgot how many billion to his girlfriend or something like that? So it was like 20 some. I was like, what? It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it's the whole thing with like the whole crypto craze. I have students that I meet with that are like 25, 26 years old that at one point during the crypto hype had $200-300 million in cash sitting in their bank account. And now some of them are down to like 3-4 million. But it is just crazy, just the amount of hype and faith people get when the market is emotionally charged.
Right.
You know, so you just gotta and enjoy that emotional charge, because that emotional charge, there's a lot of money to be made with emotional charge.
Right, right.
Just peel off some chips and put it aside and buy old person stuff like real estate. You know?
Okay, these are just fun rapid fire questions. The last questions I have for you. And that was funny because when I asked people, what do you want to ask Dan? So I just put these questions together, just like 4 or 5. So just rapid fire. What time do you wake up in the morning?
4:30 to 5 a.m.
You're one of those guys. Okay. Most successful people, they, you want to be part of the 4:30 a.m. club and the 5. Why do you get up that early?
Because I can think, and I can think. I can exercise without distraction. I can meditate. I can do like red light therapy and all the weird oxygen therapies and all those things you need to do to stay young as you can.
Yes.
I mean, you got to do, it's like, I mean, if you figure workout and weird therapies and vitamins and all that junk, it's like 2 hours in the morning.
Right. I know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When you're doing
your face, do your hair, do everything.
Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah. I see. It must be an hour for you to get this pretty. What is your morning routine?
So I'd say usually 30 minutes of cardio and 30 minutes of strength training.
Like when you get up though, like, do you eat first? What is your little routine?
When I get up, I drink like humongous glass of like reverse osmosis alkalized oxygenated water, right? Okay. I pound about like 30 vitamins, like on an empty stomach. People are like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, that's what I do. I'll pop 200 milligrams of caffeine and pharmaceutical grade caffeine with that, with like L-theanine and other, interesting vitamins. That'll be it. So that, and then usually again, then after that, get straight to the workout, So I'll either go head gym, or if I'm going to do home workout, or go to the park and just do sprints and stuff, I'll just get that smashed out of the way. Pet the dogs, maybe drink a cup of coffee. If I want to splurge, I'll drink. I thought you quit caffeine.
I saw one thing that you had quit caffeine. Was that short-lived?
I quit nicotine. I quit vaping because I started vaping during COVID.
Right. You told me that. I know you didn't tell me that. I read that.
Kids don't vape. Adults don't vape.
Don't vape. It's really bad. People don't understand.
It's so bad for you.
And it's so new. People don't really understand. We don't have the you don't even know what the long-term effects are going to be. So vaping is, we'll talk about that later, but yeah, really bad.
It's made in some, like, usually even the high quality stuff they claim it's like, it's made in some very unregulated lead carcinogenic factory in Shenzhen, China. I'm serious. Like, that's where a lot of our, like, components for computers are made, but you're not eating those. Yeah, we're inhaling those.
What do you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
Grass-fed, grass-finished steak and animal organs.
Oh, really? No eggs?
Sometimes a couple eggs, pasture grass-finished stuff.
I know you dropped a lot of weight recently. You had said, it took you a while, but you said you were like 230 and then you got down to like 180 or something. Right? So see, I've been tracking you. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Well, you gotta look at most people around 50 though, like they start walking like old people. They can't run, they can't lift, they can't fight. Their testosterone or hormones are all jacked, and that. So I'd say it's very important to stay on top of your hormones, your health, your diet. all those things as an entrepreneur, if you want to stay optimal. I mean, you got to be sharp, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you're old and physically you're healthy, then you're wise and sharp. Right.
It's our last and final question, and it's a tough one. What are your pugs' names?
So one is Ripley, like
Ripley.
from the Aliens movie.
Uh-huh.
One is Clementine, like the little fruit.
Which was I saw you put the one that I laughed at your story where he was literally watching television. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's Ripley. We call her Dippy. She likes Star Trek.
She does. She likes Star Trek. Yeah. She's a Trekkie.
She's a Trekkie.
Thank you, Dan, for your time. It was awesome. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hey, just for your viewers out there also, you'll probably put it in the link below, but Dan's Millionaire Code, Absolutely. Instagram, that's the best place to go. There's like so many fake accounts, man. I think there's like 300 now. I got my blue check on Facebook, but Instagram is laggy. So just make sure there's over 2,000 posts on my Instagram if you go there, because usually the fakies are too lazy to replicate 2,000 posts.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And then you also have a podcast, and it's in the intro, I had mentioned that Dan's Millionaire Code.
Yeah, that podcast, we've had amazing friends and entrepreneurs over the years. I haven't pounded one out for a few months. We're a little bit on just heads down focus to scale our businesses. Mm-hmm. But we're going to get some more fun guests here on there. I got a whole line of people that want to get on, so we'll get a few more on there for you guys.
Absolutely. It's awesome. Yeah. So follow him at Dan's Millionaire Code on Instagram. He gives us market updates, videos, and keeps us abreast of what's going on. So again, Dan, thank you so much for your time. I really, really, truly appreciate it.